It is the best night of the week. It is open mic night, which means it's your night to sound off, give your opinions. You hear myself and every other content creator all week long talk about our thoughts on all the big news. And I know that you have these conversations throughout the chats. You have them on Facebook, you have them on Twitter, you have them with your friends. So why not have them here? If you have an opinion, it is your night to give that opinion right here at Last Second Sports. And we're going to do it next after this intro. All right. Welcome back to Last Second Sports, where we are giving you our take down to the last second. And as I said, it is open mic night. So, same spiel every week. Make sure you get in early. Link is pinned to the top of the chat. Click the link. That'll bring you backstage. You will have 5 minutes to get your take off. I only have a couple people waiting backstage right now. So, do it before it gets too late and you're waiting a long time. I know you have things that you want to talk about, quarterback related, draft related, coach related, whatever it is. Now is your time to sound off. We're going to start off with Gammon, and then we're going to go to Phoenix, and then we're going to go to whoever pops in next. So here we go. What's up, Gammon?
Man, this is unbelievable. I've been calling into the show for I think almost 2 years now. I think I'm coming up on that spot. And this is the second time where I came in first. And all blessings to God, because I the reason why I've made it here. But I'm just so happy.
You know what I'll say, Gammon? Ekim, who always was the one that was first. I haven't heard from him in a while. I haven't seen him in the chat, so I hope he's doing okay. Like I said, I haven't heard from him. That's not normal. So shout out to him. Maybe he's just taking the off season off, whatever. But hopefully everything's going okay with him.
I think it's been your Sam Darnold takes. I think that's you've turned him off at that point. But I actually wanted to say a couple things. First off, thank you so much for being one of the few content creators that are out there with. We're talking about the top, the 1%ers, right? With that 10K viewership or subscribers, that actually gives your audience a voice, allows us to come on and talk and express our hardships or anything else. But also, too, more importantly, big ups to you having the nuts to know that one call could go sweet and then the next call could go so sour. And there's no, you know what I mean? There's nothing that can be done about that. So that is pretty it's pretty incredible. As for somebody that deals with anxiety, and I actually care what people think, the position that you decide to weekly put yourself into, I think deserves a lot of props. And then lastly, too, because I know I'm kind of cutting halfway into my time, I want to shout out to Ward. His daughter, I believe, having open heart surgery.
Yeah.
I could only imagine there's so many things that take a backseat to streaming, sports, extracurricular stuff. Things don't matter, especially when children are involved. So want to kind of start off the show respectfully in those two parts. And I also, too, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving my spot where I'm on the platform to the other people. And if you don't call in, I think you're doing yourself a grave disservice, because what's so great about this, if you're afraid about your voice, how it sounds, how you look, anything like that, calling in here, you're not actually put on screen. And so you could be a little bit faceless. You can actually, when you type in, you can actually change your name, so that way then nobody knows your actual username. So you can be just the hermit of all hermits, and you never get blasted out. As long as you're not confrontational. Jesse's usually not confrontational with you. But anyways, if the chat has questions, I'm going to ask the questions here that the chat wants to ask. And so I'm going to turn it a little bit differently here.
I think one thing real quick before we get into all that is I get people that DM me regularly, and they quite often I hear the same thing. It's like, oh, one of these days I'm going to get up the courage to call in. It's like, no, you don't need courage. Like, first of all, I'm not going to put you on camera, so like you said, you're not going to have that pressure. And you can be anybody. You can say your name is Brian if your name is Dave. It's not that big of a deal. And I'm not going to let you flounder. If I feel like maybe you're floundering a little bit, like I'll step in and we'll just start having a conversation. Then it'll feel super normal. So no reason, man. If you want to call in or you have anything that you want to talk about, don't think about it as like, oh my gosh, there's a platform and people are listening and I'm going to be judged. Who cares about all that stuff, man?
Absolutely. And Classard 49er, I've seen you everywhere. Big ups, homie. And then Val Ramos, you will not use your real name when you come in here. You'll have to use Raul Vamos when you call in. But so to get kind of kicking this session off real quick, somebody asked, and this is what I'll do is I won't put you on blast. I won't put your name out there. I'll just go ahead and see this as like a free user chat where you don't have to spend money, guys. Who will be the starting right tackle week 1?
I mean, it seems so obvious. I don't see how anybody beats out McKivitz. I mean, he's the one that has
Is
NFL
it
experience at that position.
is it obvious though? Because we have these picks to where we can trade up, we can maneuver, right? There are certain trades that could be made. We can really, we could really make some things to where we can make a mid-season trade, that sort of thing. So you're saying even if we trade up to round 2, you don't see that like the whoever our second round pick could be our right tackle, and you think McKivitz out of anybody with his lack of athleticism or anything else that's going on, you think that he has that position group sewed up?
I do. I mean, even if they draft somebody, they're going to have to develop them. And Kyle doesn't like to start rookies. He just doesn't. He will if he has to, if there's nobody better. Last year, he felt that Burford was probably the guy. I think Brunskill, if I remember correctly, missed some time as well in training camp, so he wasn't necessarily fully ready to go. And even then, it was like, okay, yeah, I'm starting you, but I'm also gonna make you split snaps with Brunskill. So I don't. I feel like he doesn't necessarily have. He doesn't have the confidence in rookies. He just doesn't.
Okay. All right. Another question that we have. This one was said, Gammon, here's one for you that nobody has addressed. So you have a clean canvas to paint on, Jesse. Why has the defense of the teams we beat when Purdy was starting been overlooked? Most of them sucked. Sounds like some slander to me on that back end. A little bit of tude, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think like for me it's really hard because I don't you can bring those things up and you can make excuses as to why it happened or whatever. And there are some things that for me when I look at Purdy I'm like, well, he was pretty turnover prone in college. I was surprised that some of those things didn't come up in a pro as his rookie year. But when I really look at it, I think it's just okay to give Purdy credit. Like it's okay to give him credit. He played well, man. He played really well. He showed a lot of really good things. There's nothing wrong with that. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to like anoint him the savior or still not want to see what Trey Lance can bring to the table because that's where I'm at. But just Brock Purdy and what he did, I prefer to not tear him down because I like Brock Purdy. I think he does a lot of good things. I think he's a good human. We can point to the defense and those things, and I'm sure people do, but Purdy played good, man. He just played good football. That's what it comes down to. Played good football.
No, I did play good, but I thought he played exceptionally well. And the other thing too is, I'm not going to lie, I was very down and timid on Purdy, especially when I heard him being about to be called up in the Dolphins game. There was a lot of animosity between I think us and Dolphins fans, and I knew that was going to be like a weird kind of rivalry game when we're talking about AFC and NFC. But you know what's really surprising to me was that Purdy, out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I believe, now chat, you can double check my statistics on this, but I believe that he actually led all the rookie quarterbacks in touchdowns thrown for last season, and he did it in 5 games. And I think it kind of goes back to what you're saying. There's nothing wrong with wanting to see what Lance becomes. Saying something good about and acknowledging the accomplishments of another person, right? Doesn't make you jealous, envious, a downer, or even negative or a hater. But I think that does go to show just how impressive Brock Purdy was. And my question to you, Jesse, is everyone calls Purdy a game manager. Quarterback wins don't matter. Everything was facilitated, and just heaven and earth was just given to him to be able to make those plays easily, and that he's just Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0. And I'm going to be honest, I have more faith in the ceiling of Trey Lance, what he can become, over Brock Purdy. But for all those who are just trying to basically just dim his light, what do you think the main difference was between the reason why he was able to accomplish and do so much offensively versus what Jimmy Garoppolo was able to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna answer your question with you off air so I can get to Phoenix.
Absolutely.
But I
Thank
think
you.
it's a really, really good question. Thanks, Gammon. I appreciate you, man. So, I mean, I think for me, it really comes down to the mentality. We can talk about being more mobile, which, yes, that is true. We can talk about how he was willing to take some shots potentially that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't able to, but ultimately, he's just a really strong player when it comes to the mental aspect. And I think Jimmy, for whatever reason, either just never had that, or maybe he was torn down a little bit from being here with Kyle Shanahan. Maybe it was oil and water, and it didn't mix. But for whatever reason, man, Jimmy was not near as confident. He was not near as precise with his decision making. And I think that is the biggest difference between Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo is Jimmy Garoppolo was kind of beaten down mentally, and Brock Purdy played like this was his only chance he'll ever get, because it potentially could have been or might be the only chance he ever gets. So he had to play to the best of his ability. And so I think that is likely the difference. I think it all comes down to what's between the ears. I'm a big between the ears guy. And when I look at these quarterbacks, it's the reason why I'm not big on Sam Darnold. I think that's an area of opportunity for him. That's why I am big on Trey Lance. I think that he has everything that you need to be elite in this league when it comes to a mental capacity. And I think Jimmy Garoppolo, there were some things to be desired there. I don't desire any of those things with Brock Purdy. I fully believe in his mental capabilities. All right, I'm going to go to Phoenix, then Diego, then Alex, the Niner gang. Let's go. What's up, Phoenix?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Hey, what's up, man?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you.
Hey, so I think that so I'm just tired of everybody just deflecting and being not just deflecting, but just totally, that's the wrong word, disregarding Trey Lance, and because they're constantly saying everywhere that he's a bum, he's a flop, he's a failure. It's like, how do you know all that when you're not even giving the kid a chance? Oh, well, he did have a chance. Well, is calling like five straight quarterback powers a chance? That kind of just sounds like sabotage. I don't even think that that they even take into account his willpower, because look what he's doing. He's uh training with Patrick Mahomes. He's going outside the box because he says, you know what, I don't have support here, which I think is disgusting. And I think if Kyle Shanahan and the others are like stupid enough to trade him away, for example, the Vikings for Kirk Cousins, and Trey Lance goes back home, and they get the quarterback that they always wanted in Kirk Cousins, and Trey Lance wins a Super Bowl with the Vikings before before Shanahan, you know everybody's out, and I think I honestly don't believe that Shanahan's the genius that he says he is, or even that
Yeah,
they
man,
prop him up
I
to
think
be.
there's a lot to unpack
Yeah,
there.
if he was a genius, Lance would have been Patrick Mahomes esque by now.
Yeah, I think he has the capability to be a dynamic quarterback in this league. I do. And time's going to tell. I think in hindsight, a lot of people did say, hey, this is the best position for a young quarterback. I think hindsight tells us that is not the case. You know, the talent was there, all those other things, but you have to be willing to develop these young players. And the 49ers were, to me, they fell in love with what Trey Lance could be, but not the work to get there. It's like everybody wants to be skinny, but nobody wants to put in the work in the gym or the eating habits to actually be skinny. You know what I mean? There's work that goes into it. And so that's what I look at when it comes
Yeah, exactly.
to the Trey Lance situation is like, yeah, we really think he could do these great things and we're going to fall in love with what the end result is, but we don't teach mechanics. We're not here to fix those things. He's going to have to figure that stuff out in the offseason. And then you get one chance to be the starter. Your second year, you get injured, and now it's all of a sudden you've got to compete with a guy like Sam Darnold. That I'll never understand. And I would say a majority of fans really don't
No,
hate Trey Lance, but that minority, Phoenix, is very, very loud. And I hear it too. If you're on social media at all, running the YouTube channel, just run through the comments on a pro Trey Lance video that I put out. Run through the comments of that video and tell me that it doesn't exist. The
oh no,
comments that come from
I have
certain people is
arguments with people
wild.
like that all the time. I
Yep.
with people like that all the time. It's vapid. It's very culty.
Yeah, it is. And so when you come across it, it's like, man, it's a lot, you know. I just don't understand it. I just don't get it. I don't get how so many people think that they've got it all figured out after such a short amount of time. And there's so many things that you can point to all the facts, all the players that didn't look good this
They
early
just
in their
want
career, all the great players that did look good after not looking good. There's so much, man. I think I might be losing you, Phoenix. And I lost him. Dang it. It's always hard. Anytime Phoenix calls, he's always on a little bit of a delay. And so like not trying to talk over each other is always really, really hard to do. But I feel him, man. I really do. And I hear it in the chats like, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, there's not, I mean, come on, nobody wants Trey to fail, Jess. You don't know it. Yes, they do. Yeah, absolutely they do. And trust me, these people exist. And I see it on every YouTube video. I see it every day on Twitter. It is just the way that it is, man. It is just the way that it is. So, you know, it's likely a small minority group of the fan base, but they definitely exist. And when you deal with it on a daily basis, it can feel like it's everybody sometimes. All right, we're gonna go to Alex, then Niner Gang, and then Brooks. Let's go. What's up, Alex?
Not too much. Can you hear me?
I got you. Yes.
All right, perfect. Yeah, I was I don't know. I've been getting whiplash lately with everything going on Twitter with all the quarterback conversation, and now Jack Hayner's coming to the Bay, and DTR's the rumor, and it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why 49er fans have this unique coping mechanism to just constantly. I mean, I thought Brock Purdy was the best. Now we're going to be looking at Sam Darnold and Jake Hayner, or Dorian Thompson Robinson. Like I want to know like what your take is on these quarterbacks being looked at. Jake Hayner being worked out.
Yeah, I think they're going to need a camp body. That is for sure. And I
Yeah.
also think that people are really putting a lot of value into Sam Darnold's contract and like, oh, well, we can't cut Sam
Yeah.
Darnold. He's definitely going to be on this team. It's the same thing that people said about Nate Sudfeld last year when he had
Yeah.
his guaranteed money. They
No, I
saw a
know.
formula. Basically they saw a formula, Alex, where they brought in a rookie quarterback that they didn't expect to make this team. He was able to beat out Nate Sudfeld, and they're probably going to work that formula again. Hey, we need a camp arm. When Brock Purdy's healthy, maybe this rookie is better than Sam Darnold, and we can move on from Sam Darnold, and we feel fine with that. And we've got another young player in the stable. So I don't have the issue with them drafting a quarterback. I don't have an issue with them drafting quarterback every year until they for sure have that number one guy on lock and that number two guy on lock. Once they've got that, maybe stop drafting quarterbacks. But up until then, keep on taking swings at it. There's no issue I have with it.
Yeah, no, and I definitely agree as far as that goes. Now, is when it comes to other positions, who do you think is going to be coming out strong this year? As far as like rookies that we had, like I know that we're talking about looking at slot corners, but I mean, I don't know if you remember last year, Sammy Womack was making all those huge plays. He had that huge special teams play near the end of the season. That was, I mean, every time that Sammy Womack is in the game, whether or not it was in preseason, where he was intercepting the ball like once a game, or like with when he's actually put on the field on special teams, and he makes these huge plays that are just dynamic. I mean, what's your take on the slot corner position? I think that Sammy Womack's gonna be our guy.
Yeah, I mean, Womack. I mean, they brought in the kid from the Falcons. They're going to compete for sure. For me, when I look at the corner position, I'm more concerned about outside. Who's going to be the first guy off the bench at outside corner? And it seems like every year the 49ers have an injury there. And so they're going to need somebody. They're going to need somebody to come in.
We're going to hear about Jason Verrett. He's coming back on another, veteran. I mean, I love the guy, but I mean, yeah, no, it was, I understand. That was just heartbreaking when that happened last year.
Yeah.
It was, we had Ambry Thomas is the odd man out right now, right?
Yeah,
is that what,
a little bit.
And what was the other, Diamador Lenore? I think that Lenore took a step this year, and I think that, he really improved from his rookie season. Ward was, if you remember correctly, Ward was the one that I was concerned with, going near the end of the season. I think even Graham was talking about it, and I was noticing it too. Just seeming like he wasn't keeping up as much as he was in the beginning of the season. He had, this cockiness and this, he had this speed, and then all of a sudden it just kind of disappeared. So I think that at either of our outside corner positions, not just where Lenore's playing, but also on Ward's side, I'm not sure. If I know that Lenore came on at the end of the season and kind of like saved the corner position, like in general. I think that he and Thomas are going to continue to compete. I think that's going to continue to bring Lenore out more. But Ward, I don't know. They should have. I can't believe they didn't keep Mosley. I mean, my team outside the 49ers in the NFC are the Lions. It's Detroit, and I think that Detroit's going to take a major step this year. And I think that they're going to be the team to honestly beat outside the 49ers. And that's where Mosley went, and I think that he's going to thrive. Their secondary got much better, and I think ours got weaker by comparison. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think the Lions are going to take a major step forward. I've got to wonder. You look at the way that Ward kind of slowed down the stretch. We know that he had a little bit of an injury there, but it sounds like his daughter, who just had open heart surgery, yesterday, was born in November, and there was a lot of complications there. I guess.
Oh, okay.
I guess she wasn't breathing. They had to put her in an incubator right away. And
that was Was that all
Yeah,
knowledge like that was happening? Like, or was that public? Or I'm not even sure if that.
I don't remember hearing about it. I don't remember
Okay,
hearing
yeah.
about it.
No, I didn't
Yeah.
realize. I saw the stuff about his daughter, and God bless her for going through the surgery, and
Yeah.
God bless him for the recovery that she's making, and I sincerely wish him the best. And frankly, if that is honestly what he was going through, then he played better than I don't know.
Right.
That's some championship level like guts and grit to even go out there and still perform at the level that he still maintained. And it's he kept his eye on it. Then I can't fault him for anything else. I thought it was just something that was happening to his game, but if that's what he was really going through, then no, that's incredible.
Yeah, and I don't know for sure. Like, I know that there was complications when she was born from reading the story. Obviously, there was this surgery. What was going on between that time, I don't know, but I've got to assume that there was some of that personal stuff going on, and that's a big deal. And so maybe that is why we saw a dip in Ward's play. And I think it's understandable if that is the case.
Yeah,
For
of course.
sure.
No,
So
it's like the dude, I forget his name, over with the Warriors, and I know that he kept his family stuff off to the wayside, but that was a thing that was happening where he missed 23 games, and then, but he kept it personal. He wouldn't say anything, and I guess I think it's Andrew Wiggins, and he's going to
yeah,
be back for the playoffs. But
yep,
no, I think when it comes to stuff like that, that's the sacred thing. I don't care what an athlete has done on the field or off the field, but when it comes to their own families and their own lives, everything else doesn't matter. And that's you got to keep that
absolutely.
in perspective.
All right, Alex. Listen, I got to get on to the next one. Good call, bud.
Yeah, thank you, man. Take care. Bye.
Later. Good call, Alex, for sure. All right, we're gonna go Niner gang, Brooks, Corey, Ryan, and then Mansa. Let's go Niner gang. What's up, man? How are you?
Oh, Jess, it's another blessed day. Glad to be here. Glad to catch your show tonight, man. How you doing?
I'm doing really good, man. Really, really good. That's a dope neon sign behind you. Is that a neon sign or is it? No, it's not a neon sign.
That's just a screensaver, man. I ain't got it
I
like
gotcha.
that, buddy. I wish,
I was like, dang, those neon signs are expensive too.
No,
That thing is huge.
I ain't got it like that, buddy. That's a screensaver on the little computer here, man. But I wish I had, man. That would be nice, right?
Yeah, that either way, that's a dope screensaver. But yeah, from here it definitely
Thank
looks
you.
like it looks like a neon sign. That's dope.
Nice. Thank you. So yeah, man, I was listening to yours and Grant's show, man. I caught that show a little bit ago before I jumped over on this one, man. That was a good show, man. You guys did real good tonight.
Yeah, I enjoy going on with Grant, and we've built a pretty good little friendship. And yeah, no joke, man. Last night, he had started posting about the leg lock of Trey Lance, and I'm like, I don't agree with you, man. And so we were going back and forth for like an hour through text last night, sending pictures of quarterbacks and their leg locks and not being locked. We did. So it's like, okay, all we got to do is just do what we would do behind the scenes and just bring it to the show. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
That was good, man. I seen the videos you guys broke down and everybody else in the world broke down too, and yours was good, slow-mo. I seen the hit drop, the difference, and that was really the only thing that really honestly concerned me with Trey is sometimes he got a little wild with the ball, and
yeah,
if he can, and I agree with you guys, I think, as far as his mechanics go and everything, I believe it's all just reps and muscle memory. You just got to continuously do it, and it's not going to be perfect by any means. It's a mechanical, movement. You're going to make mistakes. Not everything's perfect, but I think he's going to be fine, man. And, shame on the Niners if they move on from him and don't give this kid his chance, but I'm diehard Niner fan, so no matter who the quarterback is, I'm going to support him. I'm going to support the backup quarterback. I'm going to support the third string quarterback, but man, let's talk about the corners, man. I like that topic you guys were on, man, and it just hasn't crossed my mind, and we're just one injury. I remember thinking that last season, we're one injury away back there from just being in trouble, if Ambry Thomas, excuse me. I don't know what happened to that poor kid. He looked like he showed potential. I think it was his end of his rookie season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He showed potential, and then he just never seen the poor kid again. He's always hurt for some odd reason, and so you think that you really think that's going to be one of their big needs? They're going to chase the defense. And they're going to chase that cornerback position. I do believe and agree with. I can't remember if it was you or Grant that said they're going to need a safety or they're going to go after a safety. I agree 100%. That's going to be, I would say, first, second pick. However that falls.
Yeah,
So,
I think they definitely need a safety. I would say that's priority one. And I would say edge rusher and outside corner have got to be right up there. And, Ambry Thomas is an interesting deal. I've got my own theory on him, just following him on Twitter and watching his journey last offseason. And I was talking about it during the offseason. He clearly went through some sort of spiritual journey last offseason, which more power to him, man. Whatever that is that makes you happy. But I really felt like that played out a lot on Twitter, and everything he'd posted about was the spiritual journey he was on. And I think that took precedence in his life. I think he put that ahead of everything, and I don't begrudge him for that. But
makes
when that
sense.
happens, football takes a back seat, and maybe he just didn't make the leaps that they had hoped from year 1 to year 2 because he was on this spiritual journey. And we'll see if football's still super important to him. This is all perception based off of social media posts. So I don't know for sure if that's the case, but that's what he portrayed to everybody last offseason. And I think that it kind of makes sense when you see that he didn't take it really any step forward, being able to even see the field almost at all last year.
Yeah, man. And to your point, and the gentleman's point that called in before me, man, Trevarius Ward playing through the stuff with his daughter. I had no idea anything happened like that with that guy, and if he's playing through stuff like that and played the way he did, like the guy said, he's superstar caliber. But on the
Oh,
next
yeah.
hand, bless him, bless his family. But on the other hand, do you think it was a great idea, bad idea for the Niners to let Mosley go? Should we have kept Emmanuel?
I wish they had kept Emmanuel Mosley. I know that they, at the very least, would have had to pay him a little bit more than Detroit did. But if that's all it took was an extra $500,000 or $1 million to cover taxes, then I say do it. I think having Mosley on this team right now would be a real nice luxury. But
Oh yeah.
they don't have him. They still have multiple things they can do. They can draft players. There are still a couple free agents out there that could fit. They just need to get depth going because they're most likely going to need somebody else to come off the bench at some point.
Yeah, we seem to always have an injury back there in the secondary, and that's for many, many years. That's been the Niners for the most part. Achilles heel, is our secondary. We can't,
Yep.
You can counter that between the mobile quarterbacks and the secondary, whichever one you want to put first. But those are the Niners' Achilles, and when Mosley and we had Trevarius Ward last season, I felt, man, we're gonna lock this down. This is gonna be fantastic. And then, man, Mosley got hurt. That was heartbreaking, man. Heartbreaking.
Yeah, because he was playing really, really good. Mosley got, and then we're like, okay, well, we got Verrett. Don't worry. And then Verrett just never played. It's like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. Luckily, Diamador Lenore stepped it up big time, but they definitely need other pieces around him. Niner gang, I'm going to get to the next one, man. I always appreciate you calling in, always bringing good vibes, man. Appreciate you for supporting. We'll talk soon, okay?
Yes, sir. Have a good night, Jess. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, brother. Legacy hat. So if you DM me on Twitter, I'll have to find it. I found it on Instagram, and I'll send you the name of the shop. But yeah, this hat, man, I love it. You got the Montana and rice on the bill. I love this hat. It's definitely one of my favorites for sure. And I see Fish and Chips is in here. What's up, Fish and Chips? You have something you want to say? Is it dot like you got something more to say? I'm not really sure. Okay, there we go. There it is. Sick of waiting for the draft now. Need a new chat. Yeah, definitely. Definitely it's draft season. You know what sucks though is when the 49ers don't draft till the end of day 2. That's yeah. Anyways, we'll see. We'll see what happens come draft time. I'm gonna bring on Brooks. What's up, man?
Yo,
Brooks always playing that guitar, man. You're so damn good. So damn good. That's crazy.
Appreciate it, bro. Yeah, man. I was having this conversation with someone. Actually, it was two separate conversations, and I realized before I came on stream how they were kind of connected.
Okay.
And when it comes down to it with sports, and it comes to like one of my pet peeves I've always had like the past couple of years when it comes to how teams are constructed, I feel like too much is put on the player being great versus the GM and the scouts and the people whose job is to watch film and to do research and to go interview these guys' families, and you get to draft day and you spend premium picks on guys that are like clear red flags. And I think there's not a lot of attention paid on, like, there's reasons why, like, I remember I was talking to, I think I talked to, what's the dude, Microphone? And I shared with him the article from like way back about Zach Wilson, where his own team did not like them. That was known information that the dude was kind of a jerk. And it's like people are surprised when he gets the Jets that he's kind of a jerk. And then it's like, you know, same thing with us. Reuben Foster, there was several red flags where it's like, this might be a nuisance. He might be a nuisance. He might have something. He might be charming, but at the same time, he has his issues. And then at the combine, he blows up on everybody. And it's like, and you didn't think that was going to be an issue later on? But as far as our team, if they are wrong.
Hey, Brooks, real quick, and I'll pause this. Your volume is really, really low. They're saying they're having trouble hearing you. I had to turn my volume up so I could hear you, but I can't turn yours up any higher. Can you go to the settings in StreamYard and boost that baby up?
Okay. How about now? Am I up?
Yeah. I think that's probably much better.
That's good.
Can y'all hear him now? Just give me a yay or an A in the chat.
Yeah, y'all.
I think we're probably good.
We're
Go
good?
ahead, man. I hear you better. Yeah. Everybody's saying it's better.
Okay, so my issue is if we are wrong about Trey Lance and he goes to another team and it's another situation like when Atlanta had Brett Favre and Deion Sanders on the same team at the same time, and those two guys went on to win Super Bowls without the team that they started with, Kyle is going to look like such a moron. All that ingenious, all the John Lynch's this, Kyle's at this organization this. If anything, it will show that we have no foresight. Where you have guys in your locker room, you're around them 24/7. You see how they work, and because you can't really predict what's going to happen, but you can at least have okay, I know that because of the way this guy works, I will not be surprised if he wins. Like we do this with a lot of players, like how you feel about Josh Allen, like you wouldn't be surprised if Josh Allen wins the Super Bowl when it's all said and done because you know how he works, you know how he's evolved. And we say about a bunch of quarterbacks. That's what Andy Reid saw in Patrick Mahomes when he took him. He said, hey, with me, with the team we have, I'm not going to be surprised when this dude is great because I see how he works. I see what he is capable of doing, and I'm going to maximize those talent. If Kyle looks at Trey Lance and doesn't see that, but someone else does, it's going to look real bad on us, and then we'll have to start all over again. And then it's going to come back down to, like, how good is our scouting department, where we can do everything but quarterback. The most important thing, that's like saying we're going to do a cookout, and, we got the condiments, we got the forks, we got the spoons, but whoever cooked the meat didn't use no seasoning. Like, like the presentation is nice, we got the banners and everything. That's what we look like right now. We cooking with no seasoning right now.
Yeah, man, cooking with no season though. Jeez, man, I don't even know.
There's some what's that?
Can we even invite him to the cookout?
We got some salt, a little bit of salt, maybe some paprika.
Paprika.
At best, because the quarterback is so important. It's like I don't know, like. Even with the teams, the whole idea of using like a cheap contract to win with the quarterback, there's still ability there. Like nobody's saying like, oh, we just need a cheap quarterback, we're gonna win with mid. Like Nobody's the teams that won with mid quarterbacks. That's a small number. We can probably name them all. Jeff Hostetler, Joe Flacco, end of list. Like Nick Foles, end of list.
Yeah.
Like it's a very short
Trent
list.
Trent Dilfer's the one everybody runs, but that was like the best defense in history on the other side.
And usually that's what it takes. Like you have to be so good at that. But then it's like for the Niners, we can't even say we fully built out everything else. It's not like we have the best corner tandem. We have a solid corner tandem. We don't have the best safety tandem. We have a solid one. We have the best linebacker tandem. Our defensive line leaves a lot to desire at times outside of Nick Bosa. So it's not like we're building like we got all pros at all 11 positions on defense and we just need a mid-ass quarterback to carry the team, well, to just do their job a little bit. Like, it don't work that way.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't. And also, if you're going to spend all that capital on a player, you probably should do whatever it takes to make sure that you give that player the best opportunity to succeed. I know in my job, anytime I've been in a leadership role and I've got to hire people, I put everything I can in their development, because the way that I see it is, if they don't succeed, I didn't do my job. I missed something. You know, I take it personal. And I feel like with the quarterback position, that's not necessarily the case. It's just like, there will be somebody else. I can make it work.
We can run with Nick Mullins. I mean, CJ Beathard. Yeah. I will say this. That's my bad foresight. I actually believed in CJ Beathard when we drafted him, and that blew my face real quick. I was like, he played with Kittle. That'll be all right.
The experts in Shanahan and them traded up for him. So, I mean, is it really egg on your face for believing in a guy that they traded up for?
Like, he played so many games in college, you know?
Right.
His dad, he has connections to the league through his grandfather. Like, he knows the game. Nope. Mid. Super mid. Yep.
Super mid. All right, Brooks. Good call, man. We'll talk soon, all right?
All right, bro. See you.
All right, later, man. Love Brooks, man. He's funny. That dude is funny. If you follow him on Twitter, definitely will not be disappointed. That dude is hilarious. And he's good at playing guitar too. As Gammon points out, how diverse are your viewers? Awesome. Yeah, man. There's I'm sure there's a lot of talent in this chat some way or another. Dustin says, Jesse, you're really good at making it so people don't get defensive when you debate. Any pointers? Seems like you start where you agree, and your tonality comes off as collaborative, even when you disagree. Yeah, I think that's I don't know. We were just talking about like leadership, and that's kind of the way that I like to lead. I mean, I always try to set an example. Also, like with this stuff, people get really, really defensive when you watch somebody on the other side of the screen and they have a difference of opinion than you. Like, it's like, I don't know, people just get like, they take it personally. Like, I just came at your mom or something, or your kid. I don't know. People get so defensive and they just instantly get to the hate portion. And you're a clown. And you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, oh, we're talking sports here. We're talking sports. And you're willing to go out of your way in a sports conversation and take it to that level. That's wild to me. That's where I kind of have an issue. This is sports debate. We're not supposed to agree. We're not supposed to agree on most things that we talk about, but that's okay. So for me, it's like, I don't know. I just know that there's a person on the other end that probably we agree on a lot of things. First and foremost, we agree that the Niners are the best team to root for in the NFL. So that's a great start. So having disagreement for me is normal. I don't know. I just don't take it personally, I guess. It's just the way that I go. But I appreciate the comment, man. It's very nice of you. It's very nice of you to recognize that. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to go to Corey, then Ryan, then Mansa, and then Caleb. And that is the next four. Let's go. What's
Jesse,
up, Corey?
what's up, man? How you doing, man? First, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, are you sure you didn't call in a couple weeks ago?
I did a super chat. And I've also like added you at Twitter. We've gone back and forth a few times.
Okay, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just kind of like conflating the two, like Twitter or super chats here. Anyways, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, man. I've been wanting to for a while. I wanted to talk a little bit of a draft and how I see them kind of looking at this. I really feel like this is like a depth / like red shirt draft for the Niners, right? So I think there's a possibility they might trade up into the second round if they see a guy and they see an opportunity to get a day one starter or someone who can be. But I really see it as like they're going to draft a tackle that they feel like they can groom to be probably the opposite of McClinchy was. I've heard people say they want Blake Freeland, and I think he's too much like McClinchy. I think they might look more for a pass block first right tackle this time, as opposed to like a run block and then like kind of whiffs on the pass block a lot. If Shanahan has learned anything from the fourth string quarterback situation that we had this year. And then I think it's the same thing with safety. They're probably going to look for like a single high or a two high safety to complement Hufanga that they can redshirt and get there next year when Gibson is either going to retire or probably just not come back after next year, because you can't really count on a 33-year-old safety for that long. And same with tight end, same with with the defensive ends. I think a lot of these guys have brought in on like 1 or 2 year contracts are really just to kind of hold the fort down, so you get like a somewhat reliable vet. And I think this draft is all about kind of like finding those diamonds in the rough, grooming them up, and those are the guys that are going to be relied on to take over, because going into next year and the year after, you have all these big contracts on your team, and so you're going to need some low-priced rookie deal guys to kind of fill out the rest of the roster. So that's how I really look at it, and I think it's actually like they're in a really good situation. I think they'll probably use like 8 to 10 of their picks and just like really go for it. But I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Yeah, I think it's a solid take, and I think it makes a lot of sense. When you sign an older player, they are kind of a 1-year stopgap type of player. And I think that the 49ers do a great job of essentially redshirting professionals and building them and developing them outside of the quarterback position, of course, and making sure that these players are ready to go the next year and able to contribute. And so I don't think this will be any different. I agree. I think, safety, corner, edge, offensive line, whatever, tight end, whatever they decide to do, multiple of these guys are going to be producers for this team in the future. May not happen this year. And hopefully they don't need it, because they have really good starters. It's about building depth, getting guys to develop and guys that you can trust. And then eventually they can take over and hopefully be the starters. I think it's a really good take. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope they go that route. I think if they sold the farm or traded Trey Lance to get some sort of first round pick, and like I just could see a Buckner situation all over again, where it's like you wouldn't necessarily draft a quarterback, but like whatever player you're drafting for what you trade Trey Lance for, that player's already gonna, like, much like what's happened to Trey Lance, where it's like the capital to get him has worked against him his whole career so far. And if he was just picked at number 12, which, he may not have been there, but if he was just picked at number 12, the expectations would just be a little bit different, as opposed to like, this is the second year in a row that like we're waiting until day 2 to even pick a guy. And so fans are just like, that's because of Trey Lance and he hasn't even played. And so he sucks, so I just don't, I think they've gone away from that philosophy. I think between Buckner and then Lance, I think they're more willing to kind of stay pat or do more of like a moving up just a little bit trade, right? Which they can do with their kind of endless ammo of picks that they have. Another thing I wanted to touch on real quick was, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold. I've watched all the takes on Kyle doesn't like him. The take I have on it, I guess, is I think Kyle does like Trey Lance. I think he wants him to succeed. I think John Lynch wants Purdy to succeed. And the reason why is because I think, well, Purdy is better for the cap situation. So Purdy being the guy makes John Lynch's job easier. He's got a cap controlled rookie deal under $1 million cap hit guy for what, 4 more years, 3 to 4 more years, right? With Trey, it's like you go into this year, you got to make the call on the 5th-year option. So like the worst case scenario for Lynch, and if you're looking at the cap situation, is if Trey balls out this year, then you have to pick up the 5th year. And then if he balls out again, then you got to sign him to a deal, right? It's almost like I feel like at times they actually want to hold him back a little bit, or like wait, and then you can sign him to like a second deal at like a much lower rate and kind of just like go there. Like I could have seen a scenario where if they had won the Super Bowl last year, right, they could have just like stashed Trey and kept him kind of like Jordan Love and like just, you know, kept developing him, kept working with him. And then kind of when the team got dismantled a bit due to the cap situation, then you can be like, let's start the Trey project. You know, we've got our ring. We can really go for it. So, you know, but I think Shanahan still believes in Trey. I think some of the traits of Darnold with, you know, him being able to run, the read option, being able to throw deep. I think some of the guys are looking at in the draft, you know, people say they're very Purdy-like, but I think they have a lot more traits than Purdy in terms of like arm strength and all that. I think Trey is what he wants in a quarterback. I think it's just about being on the field, putting it together, and stringing a couple starts together, which I think he'll have a chance to do. So that's my take. I like to look at it positively. I know everyone, you know, it's just like hellfire out here, but yeah, I'm rooting for Trey, man. I was at the game where he broke ankle. Yeah, it's like, imagine waiting a whole year. I bought the Trey Lance shirt, right? I'm wearing it to the Seattle game. It's raining. I'm like, well, it's fine, you know. And then he breaks his ankle on like the 3rd drive, and I'm like, and the guys next to me are like, yeah, Jimmy's coming in. I'm like, dude, you're rooting for our starting quarterback to break his ankle? Like, seriously? So yeah, I just want to see the kid play, and I'm with you on that. Like, I think he's got high upside. I love Purdy. Where's my favorite number? Like, all in on that guy. But again, like I think Rob Guerrero says it best. Like, I just want to open the Christmas present and see what we got. So that's it. Man.
No, I get it, man. I get it, and especially with Purdy potentially missing games, like just take the chance. Now's the time to take the chance. Let's just see. Can we get a couple games? Can we just see for sure? I mean, you still aren't going to be able to make a for sure decision off of 2 more games or 3, whatever it is, but at least you can kind of see which direction it's trending. Is it trending better? Is it getting worse? Is it staying the same? Is there anything to be optimistic about? I think that's what we want to see. And we just want that answer before we're fully willing to just move on and say, all right, you know, let's go a completely different direction. And I think that's a fair take to have. Corey, good call, man. I appreciate it. Call in anytime. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, man. Take care.
Later. I got a couple super chats, and we'll get over to Ryan. All right. So we've got Edgardo who says, if Purdy is the guy, how long will he play on that contract if he's having success? I'm sure at some point he's going to want some real money. Well, luckily for the 49ers, they don't have to make that decision in the next couple of years, because when you're drafted, you can't rework your deal until you've put in 3 years in the league. So Purdy for sure is going to be inexpensive this year, inexpensive next year. And then that's when you would start having to have those contract conversations with Brock Purdy. So I think that's when you would start to see it. And hopefully by then we've got a really good idea of who he is and who he's not, and if he can be that guy before you start paying him a lot of money. So it's a good situation to have. Fish and Chips says, it looked like Trey was showcasing with Pat. Why? Yeah, so what happened there is the guy that he's working with to rehab and strength and conditioning is Pat Mahomes' trainer. And so naturally, Pat's hanging around. They've got the quarterback coach there. And so Trey starts working with them. It's a natural look. Now, all of the things that have come out about Trey Lance have not been from Trey Lance. They've been from this professional videographer and photographer. He does stuff for like the UFC. He does stuff for a bunch of college teams. This is what he does for a living. And so I'm sure he's there is a part of Patrick Mahomes' crew. I mean, you're starting to see a lot of big time throws come out from him and some of his workouts. And so I'm sure that just by being in the building and being a professional quarterback, he's probably like, hey, you mind if I, take some videos, take some pictures of you, helps get his work out there. I mean, everything that's going out there has his name on it. So I think that that's probably more likely what it is. I don't think it's Trey at all parading and acting like, hey, I'm doing all these amazing things. It's just kind of the way that it's worked out. So that's the way that I see it. I'm going to bring in Ryan. What's up, man?
What up, bro?
How you doing?
Smoked paprika. That's the truth. Regular paprika ain't it. You need the smoked paprika.
If we're talking seasoning, that's where it's at. The smoked paprika. At first, I thought you said smoked paprika, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to have my listeners be swayed into smoking paprika.
Don't
I don't know
let
what
people
that'll
make
do.
decisions for you, people.
Yeah.
Nope. Smoked paprika. You need that. I kind of wanted to push back real quick on what the last caller said about Trey Lance being Kyle's type of quarterback. I think almost every other quarterback we've seen him linked to or actually looking into is a different type. Kirk Cousins, Mac Jones, like Chris Sims, without supposedly hearing anything from Kyle Shanahan, knowing his buddy, thought, oh, Mac Jones is his guy. You know what I mean? There's so much. They're checking into Kirk Cousins again in the combine. Like, what does Kirk Cousins and Trey Lance have in common?
Yeah, but then I would say the flip side is, from the way that I understand the situation, or the way that I view the situation, I should say, I think John Lynch is the Mac Jones guy. I think he's the Mac Jones guy in the building. And John Lynch, having his ties to Fox and willing to, maybe float things out there to get his narrative out there. I think a lot of the things that we hear that comes, whether it's quarterback related or not, I think a lot of it is coming from the John Lynch camp. I really believe that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe let's operate under the assumption that he did want Mac Jones. Okay. So, but when we look at it, Sam Darnold's a guy that he likes an awful lot. He definitely fits more of a Trey Lance mold. He what?
Kyle also.
Yeah, no. I'm saying if Kyle likes Sam Darnold, which we know he does, he's more Trey Lance than Brock Purdy. I mean, This is a guy that can rush for 500 yards in a season. He's got a big arm. Dorian Thompson Robinson, or whatever his name is, he's small, but he's athletic. He's got a big arm. So I don't know if he has a type, man. I'm confused by whatever his type is.
Because look at what he's done with anybody who's got any kind of athletic tendencies. He runs them into the ground. You know what I mean?
You know what that's like, though, Ryan? Do you play Madden at all, or did you ever play Madden?
I used to back in the day. Actually, 2K was my favorite.
Okay,
running the ball.
So I'll say this: playing Madden myself, I always played with quarterbacks that weren't mobile. I like to just sit in the pocket and pass. However, there are times where I'm like, let me play with Michael Vick, or let me play with Lamar Jackson.
I tried that. I couldn't figure out how to get him to. I couldn't figure out how to get the ball down and just run. So I was like, I can't play with those guys.
So what's funny is I'm fine being a pocket passer and when I play the game, but when I get my hands on a mobile quarterback, I forget how to pass and I just start running like crazy because I'm like, well, I got to use their speed. That's why I got him. I feel like that's Kyle Shanahan. He just treats these players like it's Madden. He's like, I don't know how to use a dual threat quarterback. Like, if you can move and be mobile, I'm just going to run the hell out of you because I want to spam your athleticism. It's almost like that in a weird kind of way. I don't know. That's just the way that I look at it.
Now, Ted brought up something today. He's kind of getting chastised on Twitter about it. The 49ers worked out a right tackle today who's 6'11". Looks like he's all of 180 pounds at 6'11". Right. And he's saying because 6'8" with McGlinchey didn't work well either. You know, like is this something we want to go into? I seen the guy in his clip and I was like, why isn't he just a tight end? Why don't we just teach him how to catch and just, you know, he probably blocked better than Charlie Warner. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are we going down this road? Like 6'11". I don't know any defensive end that is 6'6", right?
Right.
So you're talking about below that. Like, how low is he going to have to get down to get leverage on these defensive ends? And like, I don't want to hear about reach. Okay. Everybody likes to say, oh, you got reach, this and that. Okay. So if I go to reach out and put my hand on you, Jesse, you were a wrestler. What happens when you swat my hand away?
Oh, you're done for.
You're
It's
done.
over.
My next place to stop you is with my elbow. How effectively am I stopping you with my elbow at that point?
You're
The next
not.
place I could do is stop you with my hips. You know what I'm saying? That's the only other thing I could do. Or I could bring my hand all the way back and try and go at it again. By that time, you could get your hands back in striking position and or get around the corner on me. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, 6'11", man, that's a little big. I haven't seen it. Are they killing him because of the Mike McGlinchey part he threw in there, or are they killing him because he's saying that the 6'11" guy can't be anything?
I don't know. When I was watching him hold the bag, he's not getting leverage on the guy he's holding the bag for. So to me, I don't know if he's necessarily just trying to be a good partner, but to me, I'm not trying to hold the bag and get, you know, wrecked like that. I'd rather have good leverage and have him try and, you know, work a move on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But it's practice. I don't know what they're doing. Like, I can't say, you know, just like wrestling, you're not trying to like stonewall your partner when they're doing stuff. You know what I mean? You got to get what they're going. And then once the gloves are off at that point, you know, the move, now it's time to really go against. But like I said, I don't know.
Yeah,
There's no
6'11". It's like back in the day when everybody's, well, if you're going to be a quarterback, you got to be at least 6'4". That's been proven wrong, but I think there's a limit to offensive tackle or offensive lineman in general. I don't think you want to be 6'11". I think there's a reason that those guys usually play basketball. Let's just put it that way.
How heavy do you going to have to get to not get pushed over? And at that point, where's your speed at? Because you're so dang heavy.
Yeah. Yeah, your center of gravity. I mean, everything's got to be, yeah.
That's
no rough, sense. Man. Good luck to that guy. I mean, maybe he'll pan out, maybe, but
tight end.
That's awfully tall.
You should do the reverse of Joe Staley.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, Ryan, that was a good call, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
Take it easy, man.
Later. People are saying he sounds like JT O'Sullivan. He kind of does, actually. But I know what Ryan looks like, so I can't just close my eyes and picture it because I just see Ryan's face. But he does kind of sound like JT O'Sullivan. No, I've got hat hair. I'm not showing you the hair. Fish and Chip says, I believe it's going to be handoff city in 23. Yeah, I would agree. I think that's definitely the way that it's going to be. Yeah, I actually, I think the best player of all time is neither of those guys. I think it's Wilt Chamberlain. So I pay homage to some of the older guys. Wilt Chamberlain was, people say, oh, he played in the 60s. He was just really big and he played against a bunch of guys that were 6'2". First of all, not true. The average height of centers back in the 60s and 70s were the same average height as they are now. Actually, point guard all the way through center, we're talking about maybe an inch difference in some of those positions. So the height really hasn't changed over the years. You look at Wilt Chamberlain and the things he was able to do, and you just look at his skill set. For a guy that could bench as much as he could, for a guy that played every minute in a season in his career, averaged like 47, 48 minutes a game for multiple years in his career. The guy could run like a gazelle, was strong as an ox, and had that Tim Duncan bank shot going. He could have played in any era, man. I guarantee it. So I think a lot of people look at a player like that and it's like, well, he was just way bigger than everybody. Of course he was really good and he didn't have any competition. There's no way that could have been he could have been that good if he played later. I'm not saying he would have scored 100 points or averaged 50 in a season or 30 rebounds in a season like he did, but I think he could have been damn dominant in any era. So for me, I'm going Wilt Chamberlain. That's the best basketball player of all time, in my opinion. All right, we're going to go Mansa, then we're going to go Caleb, then we're going to go Gabe's Niners. What's up, Mansa?
Man, how's it going?
Good, man. Good.
Show for I don't know. It's been a while, but my daughter, I have to pick my daughter up when you go on this show, and her schedule got changed, so now I'm able to catch it. So it's been a while, man. It's been a while.
Hey, well, thanks for calling in, man. Thanks for spending the time here for sure.
Hey.
Are you with your daughter though? Because I saw that you were like talking to somebody for most of the time you were backstage. Was that who you were talking with?
Yeah, I was talking. Are you? Oh no, I'm talking to my son. He's here.
I got you.
Yeah, so I'm talking. I was actually talking to both of them. So
got you.
Yeah, but yeah. So there's a couple. I mean, I have a laundry list of things I can go on talking about Lance all day. But like first thing, I think there's Kyle, and I think there's a couple player. I think Kyle is more into Trey's corner than a lot of people want to believe. And with Kyle, I think he prioritizes his scheme. He's an offensive coordinator before he's a head coach, and I think he prioritizes his scheme. So with Brock, you've seen what Brock did, so he couldn't run away from it. He couldn't say, yeah, he's good at this, he's good at that. With Trey, he's not going to tell you what he's good at because he wants you to believe all he can do is run with him. So you often hear Kyle talk about making people think. And I think he added that what he was doing with Trey was in addition to his offense. It's not a Trey offense because Trey allows his offense, it makes his offense evolve. And he wanted to get it out on tape. You see I can gash you with this run. Now I have both of your defensive ends, both of your linebackers, and one of your safeties thinking. And I think he really wants to be able to take advantage of making that happen. Every time I fake this handoff, I got 5 players on your team that could possibly second guess themselves. So he goes and gets Danny Gray. So I believe Kyle is in his corner more than people actually believe. And because if you look at the quarterbacks that Kyle has actually drafted, they all can throw downfield. And it's not just about throwing 40 yards. It's I can throw because Trey can throw 30 with velocity. He can fit into a tight window 30 yards from line of scrimmage, which if you look at the most elite quarterbacks, they all can. And it's not, and the ball placement is definitely something he needs to work on. But I think downfield, he's actually more accurate than people are actually giving him credit for. And also, like in the Bears game, when he threw that slot fade to Jennings, I don't think people understand that he was getting about a 7 to 10 mile per hour wind going to the right, and he threw that to the left, and he threw it on the money. That kid's got arm talent. And
bro, yes, he does.
I people understand, and because like when you look at him, it's like, hey, he's played 3 games in a quarter, but none of his games have been consecutive. And if you look at his performance, you say if you take a step back and you say the game hasn't slowed down for Trey, because when he's making mistakes, you can tell he sees it but doesn't throw it. And even Steve Young said it. He said he just has to trust what he sees. Well, I don't think the game has slowed down for him. He hasn't played 2 consecutive games at all. So you need games for the speed for the game to slow down. And once the game slows down, his accuracy improves behind the line of scrimmage. He's very bad at that. Improve your accuracy behind the line of scrimmage in 0 to 5 yards. You're going to see something with Kyle Shanahan's offense that you've never seen before. So the reason why he's still going to run that zone read.
Yeah, and he sure is.
He's going to run it. And when it comes to like the Sam Darnold edition, I didn't care that he added Sam Darnold. But if you look at Sam Darnold can throw the ball downfield. He can throw it downfield. Like Kyle he has this deep post route that he runs, and he runs it all the time. It's the same post route that got open with Jimmy in the Super Bowl. You've seen Beathard throw that touchdown. You've seen Trey get a pass interference on that. He wants to be able to beat you in one play. So, because he's a chess player, and when he says "I got you," he wants to be able to throw that. He wants that pass thrown for 6 when he knows he's got you. And I think it weighs heavy on what he wants to do. So I just think that there's a lot of misconceptions that he's not behind Trey because he doesn't get out there and vocally support him. But I really think that that's all about protecting the scheme. and catching you off guard.
I think this, so a lot to unpack. I like everything that you were saying. So let's talk about some of the things that Kyle definitely likes to do. And one play that shows up, another play that shows up other than that deep post is the rollout to the left, throw it all the way back to George Kittle or whoever going right on the double move. And that's the one that you saw him hit first game preseason against Kansas City Chiefs. You saw Brock Purdy try to run it. It was an interception because he couldn't get it out there. And that, there's those shot plays are built into his offense. He would prefer to use them. I agree with that. I don't think he hates Trey by any means. I think that he's really in a position where he's looking at it saying, hey, we think we can win in these next couple years. At this point, everybody has to earn it. We were willing to go through the growing pains last year. Unfortunately, he got injured. We're not willing to go through the growing pains this year. And I do believe that Trey Lance is here because Kyle Shanahan chose for him to be here. I also think that there's a political side of it where the locker room wants Brock Purdy, where Sam Darnold wasn't going to sign here unless you told him he has a chance. And so Kyle has this fine line that he's towing of, hey, I don't want to piss the players off, so I've got to make it seem like Brock Purdy is everything that I want, and I agree with him. I've got to say publicly that Sam Darnold has a chance because that's the only way I could get him to sign here. So I've got to play that line, but I also don't want to alienate this quarterback who I do want to succeed, but he's going to have to earn some things. So I think that there's some political stuff that is happening there with Kyle Shanahan, and I think it's a tough situation he's in, and we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so do you feel that some of these players are it's a couple players, but aren't they really kind of like a cancer in the locker room? Because how is it that when you needed Trey to win that game to keep your playoffs hopes alive, you didn't have Jimmy? How does he go in there on his second? It's basically second or third start.
Start, yeah.
Yeah, his second start. Win that game, and then when the offseason comes around, you're upset they let Jimmy go. Like, I don't get that. Like, do you understand your playoffs would have been done with this window that you love to run? You love to run to the window, but when you needed Trey, he was there, helped you win, and then no, he's not good enough. Like, you put up 27 points. He's an extremely raw player, and he put up 27 points, and like out of the 17 games, I think he had the third highest rating against that Texans team. He was rated higher than the kid in San Diego. There were a couple of good
better than Herbert, better than Lawrence, better than Mac Jones, better than Zach Wilson, I think, played him that year. Better than, I want to say Josh Allen played him that year. Yeah, he was up there, yes.
Yeah, and then one last thing I really wanted to ask, because I don't think enough people are talking about it. Out of the 7 games that Brock played, were any of them, because I think it's incorrect to look at a defense in its totality of the season, because some hot. When Trey started against Arizona, it was the best defense in the league.
Yep.
And it was hands down, no question, no one else. Has Brock played a defense that good, do you think?
I think Dallas in the playoffs, yeah.
Yeah, I think Dallas was Dallas was tough. Yeah, because I don't have anything against Brock at all.
But they only scored 19 that game.
They scored 19.
That was the one defense, right?
They scored what, not, or was it 20?
So I don't know. It wasn't a lot. It was a lot less than what they were averaging. Yeah.
It was almost half your average.
Yeah.
So I just want to, hey, why don't you pump the brakes? And then the sad part is they're going to move the goalpost with Trey. I believe he's going to start week 1, but he's also going to have to play Philly. He's going to have to play Philly in one of his 3 or 4 starts.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness, if he doesn't put up 30 points on Philly, they're going to be, you talk about moving the goalposts, man. They're going to be moving the goalposts, begging to get him out the game. And it's kind of sad, man. It's kind of annoying. But this fan base is very finicky. Being thirsty for a Super Bowl does that, I guess. So
every little thing that he does is going to be scrutinized. If he completes a pass and it's a little off target, if they win and he doesn't play good, If they lose, but he plays well, it's still his fault. Like there is going to be no winning with Trey Lance.
Yeah.
None. But thank goodness for us, fans don't decide any of that stuff. The coaches will. And if Trey Lance is playing well, regardless of what's going on around him, and Shanahan recognizes that, then he's going to continue to roll with Trey Lance. So he's got an opportunity here. It's not going to be easy, but he's got an opportunity.
Right. I can't wait until the schedule comes out.
It is going to be Philly week 1 on Thursday night, though. You know it is.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going to have the first game is going to be against Philly. And you know what? I hope it is. And if we have Philly on the schedule, because me and my son, we talk, he always asks, because I don't know, I have this enact offensive coordinator thing that goes on in my head for some reason. So he said, what do you think Philly's going to do? I'm like, they're going to get up on us, play us tight, or they're going to send 5 and try to, get pressure right away. And Kyle's going to beat them deep. And I think that's kind of what Kyle's game plan was. I'm going to take the top off the defense early, bag you up off of me, then run it down your throat.
Yeah.
So if we get Philly week 1, which I think we do, I'm going out on a limb right now. Put me on record. It's a win for Trey Lance.
Ooh, I like it. I have listen.
No problem going out that early, man. No
Mansa,
problem.
that was a really good call, man. I think you made a lot of people think. And one thing that you said too that we didn't touch on, and I just want to reiterate it because this is what I've been saying. I get a lot of comments in the comment section on my videos. Well, I mean, how's Trey Lance going to be successful? He can't even read a defense. Like, hold on a second. There's a difference in not being able to read a defense and not trusting what your eyes are telling you. He absolutely can read a defense. He goes through his progressions. When he gets to the line of scrimmage, you see his eyes scanning side to side. Then when he drops back, you see him going through his progressions. But like you said, just like Steve Young said, there is a point where you have to play enough to trust what you're seeing and be willing to marry your mind with your body and have you make those decisions. And that is what we're seeing. We're not seeing a player that can't read a defense or isn't smart and can't do those things. It's just you got to play, man. You got to know what you can get away with in the NFL, and that's where we're at. So,
yeah, I know you got to go, but I think with the three starts in 1 quarter, I've seen enough progression in Trey to say, hey, if that guy gets consecutive games, watch out.
Absolutely.
And I think when it clicks, it's gonna be good, man. It's gonna be good. So
I agree. Good call, Mansa. We'll talk soon.
Okay, cool.
All right. Yeah, I and that's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, there is little things that I don't think most people understand, and it's okay. But I'll give you an example. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Justin Fields, his rookie season, he had a game against, I want to say it was the Pittsburgh Steelers, where they kept rotating their safeties post-snap, and they confused the hell out of him repeatedly with the same exact play. He couldn't figure it out within that game. Now, the next game, Green Bay tried to do the same thing to him, and he did figure it out. It was either Green Bay, then Pittsburgh, or Pittsburgh, then Green Bay. I don't remember the order. But he was able to figure it out the next game, which is good. That shows growth. You can't ask for much more, especially from a rookie quarterback. What I will say about Trey Lance, and this is where his mind level is at, there are mistakes that he was making early in a game. And it didn't take him until he saw the film after the game and a week, working on things to figure it out. He made adjustments a series later. He would see the same exact thing and he knows, hey, you know what? This is what I did the first time. It didn't work. Now I know where to go. That's actually very impressive. That shows the mental capacity that Trey Lance has. And that didn't happen once. That happened multiple times throughout the short stint that he played, where he would make a mistake. They would call a certain call against a specific defense. He wouldn't read it right or what have you. And then the very next series or the next quarter or what have you, you would get a similar matchup, whether it's 3-by-1, 21 personnel, specific routes against the defense. And he knew exactly what he needed to do the next time. So figuring that out mid-game and making those adjustments mid-game for a player that has only played 3 games in this league, 4 games in this league, that is actually really impressive. But, people don't want to talk about those things. Gammon says 3-part question. We'll get to you, Caleb. Thank you so much for being patient. We're going to go Caleb and then Gabe, or Gabe's Niners. 3-part question. When was the last time you had to ban someone from the chat? Had to ban someone? I mean, there's maybe like 1 or 2. There's like 5 people that are banned on this channel. I did ban someone pretty recently. They came in, this was like a month ago maybe, but they came in and were like, something about like all you content creators are garbage. I don't know why you do it, something blah blah blah. And I was like, hey, I don't, that's great. I don't know why you're here. So let me make it easy on you. And I just kicked them. So but it's very rare. It's very rare. What does that say about the community? I think again, there's some outliers, but for the most part, man, it's just football, it's just sports, it's just takes. I think pretty much everybody is good. Until you prove that you're not, I'm gonna say that you're probably a good person. And then your dream interview, man. Well, I mean, gosh, there's so many different ways I could go with this. Whether it's a business owner, an entrepreneur, I'll keep it 49ers related. It'd be Steve Young. I mean, Steve Young's my GOAT. That's who I grew up with. So for me, I'd have to go with Steve Young. All right, we're gonna go to Caleb. What's up, man? Thank you for being patient. I appreciate you.
Yo, what's good, Jesse? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Hey, I'm well, bro. Hey, man, so the last caller, I agree with, bro. So I think that this is the best thing to happen to the franchise and for Trey Lance. Why? They're in a position where everybody has to be honest with themselves, right? Kyle has to be on, because the realization is, bro, this thing could really be over. Not over, but the team could be taking a step back after this season because there's no guarantee Trent's coming back. He already contemplated retirement. We don't have a backup left tackle just chilling, right? So, but for Trey Lance, I think the kid has potential. Absolutely. I also agree with the gentleman that said, I think that's who Kyle wants too. That's a big boy, and he has a cannon. When you think about that Atlanta Falcons offense, Matt Ryan was going deep to Julio. They was open, right? And the deep ball also opens up the run game because the safety can't come up, right? Why would Kyle not want to expose that for a guy who wants to run the ball, right? But with Trey Lance, you're getting hurt. I don't believe in luck and I don't believe in coincidence. You're getting hurt. You got a chance to watch everything. You watch the expectation, right? Jimmy and Brock, bro, they're not going deep. Trey has to just, now he knows. Like I like what the quarterback coach said. He came to me with a laundry list of things because you watched it. Right? You know the expectation. Kyle also knows now you're not Lamar Jackson with your legs. I highly doubt Kyle calls the same game plan for that kid. Because Kyle knows too. Right? This could literally be, even when you watch John Lynch, he's like, I got to say Brock, because that's how he really feels, because they got to be honest with themselves right now. Right? And that's the way I see it. Like, but with Trey Lance, now you know you got this laundry list of things you want to work on. Now you're working out with Patrick Mahomes. Somebody would have a hard time convincing me that they're not talking sharing knowledge.
Oh,
I guarantee he's asking Patrick Mahomes questions. Exactly.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like the kid's the best quarterback in the league right now. He's proven it. You get what I'm saying? And you're working out with this dude, and Pat could be like, bro, you're throwing the ball way too hard. Hey, man, take some off, spin it like this. Right? You're in the perfect situation because now you know what Kyle wants because the deep ball's not leaving you. And it's not like he played bad. And let's talk about that Arizona game. Let's be honest, Jesse. How many Trey Lance was moving the ball damn near every drive? How many times did we get across the 50 and field goal range and Kyle went for it on 4th down versus kicking the field goal? And we still barely lost that game.
Yep.
We could have won that game, but he went for, how many times did he go for it on 4th down? 3 or 4 times? Something like that.
Yeah, it was a lot. I want to say it was 4 times. Yeah.
And what we lose by like 2 or something like that? We didn't lose by a lot.
Yeah, I
It
think
was a
we ended
close
up
game.
losing. Yeah, I think we ended up losing by like 8 or 9 or something like that. But if they had kicked the field goals, it could have been a completely different game. Yeah.
Bro, come on, man. Right? And I see that and I'm like, man, now Brock's good. But the fact that all of them are hurt, I don't believe in coincidence. But it makes the franchise be completely honest. And like I said, for Trey Lance, I think it really lets him know, do you got this year to prove yourself too if you want to be the captain of this team? Right? He knows he watched the locker room. Like if he doesn't take this in, then I don't know. I know they talk about his intelligence. I've never met the kid, but if he's that intelligent, I'm sure he absorbed all of it.
Oh yeah, and it was two different circumstances. You know, you've got Brock Purdy who comes in and kind of takes the locker room by its neck, but also Brock Purdy didn't have all the pressure of being a top pick and having everything traded for him. He didn't have Jimmy Garoppolo breathing down his neck, who's a favorite in the locker room. None of that. It was just, hey, go out and play. You're the last option. You've got zero pressure. Go do your thing. And he took his moment and he ran with it. And again, I think Brock Purdy is very mentally strong. I think that you could put him in a lot of bad situations and he would succeed from a mental standpoint. But when you're Trey Lance and you're coming into a team that clearly is not over Jimmy Garoppolo, and you've got to come in and take his job, knowing that the locker room loves this guy, and yet, but also you're supposed to be the savior at the same time, that can be an awkward situation. You've got to tread really, really lightly. So the situations were completely different. And then when you finally get an opportunity, the guy that everybody loves is still there, right there on the bench, looking over your shoulder. Dude, that's a whole different level of expectation. And so I get it. I'm sure that the comment's going to be, well, I mean, if we're going to spend a top 3 pick on you, you better be able to navigate that. I understand it, but to expect him to come in and just take the locker room over like he owns it, I think that's an unfair expectation of anybody in that situation.
Nah, I agree, bro. Now 100%, but just looking at it from the perspective, of, hey man, we should see the best Trey Lance we're gonna see right now. Because you see this kid working. Like you can tell he knows what's at stake. But even for the front office, right? Like they literally have to play the best guy. Because if Trey doesn't come back, what are we gonna do at left tackle? Draft one. Draft picks don't always. You're not guaranteed to pan out with the draft pick. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's really a real situation. But hey, man, I appreciate you having me on, Jesse. Man, much love to you and your household, bro. In Jesus' name, man. Keep up with the great work, bro, and have a great rest of your night, man.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's a great call. God bless you as well. Good call. Really, really good call. Emiliano says, I like that Gammon is asking these types of questions from Jesse. It makes me think he's about to start his own channel. I get that vibe too. We haven't talked about it, but it sure does seem like it. And I think he should. If that's what he wants to do, man, I'm all for supporting him. I'll be the first one to subscribe. Gammon gives a lot of love to the community, and he's got the gift of gab. And I think that would play very, very well if he's starting his own channel. Great call, Caleb. I appreciate you. Speaking of their own channel, this next gentleman has his own channel. He goes by Gabe's Niners right now, but pretty sure that's not the name of his channel. I've been tapping in over there. He does a lot of pre-recorded stuff, so I just go in and I'll throw in a comment every once in a while, hit like on it for him, show him some love. But we're going to bring him on right now. What's up, man? How are you?
Hey, man. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good.
It is Gabe's Niners now. I changed it.
Oh, you changed it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because it definitely wasn't Gabe's Niners.
Oh, nope. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I go by Gabe. So just hearing people say John just throws me off. So I'm like, all right.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All
But
right.
yeah.
Gabe.
Okay. So that last guy was saying, he's talking about Patrick Mahomes and Trey Lance. I feel like that's a very overlooked fact. Like the fact that Trey Lance went, I don't know if it was his decision, but he went out of his way to train with, the best quarterback in the league at the moment. I think that says a lot about him and how much he's willing to improve just as a player and his mechanics.
Yeah, dude, it is completely overlooked. And, I think that's got to be, there has to be some sort of confidence boost because that he's sitting side by side with the best player in the NFL. And from a physical standpoint, he can make the same throws,
Oh
so he's
yeah,
probably looking at it and hopefully gaining a lot of confidence from that. Like, hold on a second. This is the best quarterback in the NFL, and there's not a throw that this guy has made out here today that I haven't been able to match.
yeah,
That has to give you some sort of boost for sure.
yeah. And it's really confusing to me on like why a whole bunch of people are just out the door on Trey already, although he's only played like four games, if that. It's just
Yeah.
and I never watched Steve Young or Joe Montana, but makes me curious like how they started off because Steve Young he was on the outs of the league, wasn't he? He was traded to the Niners from the Bucks, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It was.
it's just because Brock Purdy came in and had instant success. Granted, he was the last pick, and no one really thought he was going to do anything, and he shocked the world. And then Jimmy came in, also had success like right away. It's just, and if Trey doesn't, why are people so unwilling to take those baby steps and like the what is it called? You get what I'm saying though?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I don't know. I'm paying attention to the chat a little bit. I guess there's a guy a guy
Oh
Chuck in
yeah,
here.
Chuck.
Chuck. You're like, oh yeah, Chuck.
I,
All
I, I
right.
watched your stream when you were breaking down like Trey Lance's new throwing motion when he's at TCU, and for fun of it, it just said, "Chuck, I'm gonna chuck my shoe at your forehead if you don't stop." But
Oh, listen. Hey, it seems like Chuck just has a difference of opinion. That's fine.
which is fine.
I don't like. There's like 187 is in here a lot. There's some other people that have a complete difference of opinion. That's totally fine. I don't mind a difference of opinion. But this is what I don't like is when somebody is so set that after such a short sample size that somebody either is or is not the guy. Like there is no room for any variance in that when you speak fact, like as if it's fact at this point. Man, Brock Purdy's for sure. I mean, this is the next Joe Montana, or Trey Lance is such a bust. Hold on, man. There's no room for nuances. You're telling me you're that smart that you've got it figured out after this amount of time? There's no way, man. There's no way. Now, you may end up being right. You got a 50-50 shot, basically. He's either going to be the guy or he's not. So you may end up looking really smart, but to act as if at this point and there's no swaying you, that I don't know. That to me is a major turnoff if we're going to talk sports or have any sort of debate about anything in life. It's like if you can't even be open-minded to things.
Yeah,
that's a little weird.
To add on to what you're saying, both players, Trey Lance and Brock Purdy, have such a small sample size of games. You can't have a definitive answer like right away. Like how many games would you say that they would have to play each for everyone to generally have a good based opinion on how good they are in the NFL?
Bro, I always say 3 seasons.
3?
I always say 3 seasons. And that's like not just 3 seasons in the league. That's like playing 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Zach Wilson's a guy that I did not like coming in the draft. There was nothing about him that I liked. I thought that his athleticism wouldn't translate. I thought his arm was overrated. I thought that he could make some wow throws, but the basics he couldn't do. And all of that stuff, in my opinion, has showed up with the Jets. And he's not playing well. He's basically got ran out of town by Mike frickin' White, and they're doing everything they can to replace him. However, knowing that I didn't like him coming into the draft, knowing that he's basically lived up and done everything that I've expected to this point, until I see him for a third year, I cannot completely write the guy off. I don't think it would be fair to do so. So I'm not
sure.
gonna then hold our quarterbacks to a different standard. 3 seasons. That's
Yeah.
the rule for me. 3 seasons. Now, you should be able to see before 3 seasons where this is headed, whether it's up or down, but we've seen guys completely turn it around in season 3. We've seen people like Baker Mayfield, Nick Foles, guys who were really good early and then they fell off. So there's a lot that you find out in a 3-season time span.
Yeah, for
Usually
sure.
you have an idea, but you don't really know until that point, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I know this stream's titled like basically around Lance. But I wanted to ask who you would think would have the highest probability of being traded during the draft or before the draft. My pick is Elijah Mitchell because
That's the one. I just said it on
yeah.
Grant's show too. Yes. Yes, it's Elijah Mitchell. I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think they would trade Brandon Ayuk. He's still got that 5th-year option. He was first. I don't know who or what you would gain from trading Javon Kinlaw because he hasn't necessarily been active. And yes, Elijah Mitchell is good. I love how physical he runs. However, he's been getting hurt more frequently. Not that it's his fault, it happens. But if you can bundle Mitchell with maybe a few picks and move up in the draft to get a highly sought after position like a need, maybe tackle or another safety or even a corner, I have no idea. But that was um, a player in my mind who I thought would be a good idea. I didn't know if you
That's
had
it.
another.
That's it for me
Yeah.
too. No, Elisha Mitchell's the guy. It just makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, for one, it's a crowded room. For two, Kyle loves a draft running back.
God.
3, Elijah Mitchell is young, but there's a clear hierarchy, and he's not number 1. He has been banged up a little bit,
Mhm.
and he's one guy that you can look at and say, "Hey, where he was drafted versus what you could get for him, you're actually going to improve that stock." I think
Mhm.
Elijah Mitchell makes a lot of sense. Now, I don't think he'll be traded, but if one guy was going to be traded during the draft, I do think that Elijah Mitchell
Yeah.
fits that mold really well.
And a part of me also just wants to see Jordan Mason break out next
Me too.
season.
Yeah, me too. No, I definitely do. I think Jordan Mason could be a pretty damn good player. I
Oh
really
yeah.
do.
Let's see what else. And let's see. He also the guy before also said that he expects Trey Lance to start week 1. I'm not necessarily sure that I don't know if it was the guy before me or a few other people, but I do think Trey Lance will start week 1. At least I hope he does. I know he's going to get that opportunity, but I don't think that Sam Darnold will be able to beat him out. But you never know at the same time. But
Yeah,
the
we
first game's
don't
against the
know.
Eagles.
Sam Darnold being a veteran, I could see
Yeah.
a scenario where he practices really well
Yeah.
and makes things interesting. If I had to bet my money right now, I would definitely bet it on Trey Lance starting week 1. I don't think Purdy's going to be ready to go by week 1.
Yeah,
And
me
so then
neither.
naturally it comes down to Sam and Trey. And I just think Trey's a better player than Sam. I mean, even though he has a lot to work on, I still think at this stage, Trey would still be better. So
Well, he's
I think
more
he'll start.
he's raw still.
Mhm. Yep.
So that definitely helps. Mm, Sorry, someone's calling me. Not right now. 1,
You got like 2 minutes. Just
2
hold
minutes.
off.
Yeah. Who calling me? But did you have any other notes that you wanted to add about Trey? Something you noticed about his throwing motion? Because I did see where you're talking about his head moving. I know his knee locking out too soon was an issue, cutting off like his like body torque and power from his lower half. One thing I noticed, I don't know if it's like actually for real, but his in baseball, like when you're pitching, it's called breaking the egg. That's how I was taught. Um, so when you're, going down and up, it looked like last season Trey was going down and over and up. Now it just looks like he's going from both his hands straight to his shoulder, which should I would think in theory would increase his release time. I think that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Did you see that too?
I didn't. I was paying way more. Just to be honest, I was paying a lot of attention to that base. I didn't see some of the other stuff. When it comes to the leg lock, Grant and I actually we had a long conversation last night, a long text thread last night where he really believes in that front leg lock being an issue, and he points to Jalen Hurts as the guy who fixed it, and Trey's got to get this fixed. What we learned through the conversation is that a lot of quarterbacks do it, Jalen Hurts included. That thing is not fixed the way that it was touted. And the Super Bowl quarterbacks, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, both do it from time to time. Nobody is perfect with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Trey Lance definitely does it from time to time. Sometimes he doesn't. I don't think it's a death sentence the way that I know that Grant believes that it is. But I think that, there's definitely little things to improve on. I also think that there's a big misconception thinking that this guy's throwing motion is so out of whack and he has to fix so much. That's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, myself included, by the way. I'm just listening to what quarterback coaches have talked about, what they say about Trey Lance, ones that have coached him, ones that haven't. Every single big time quarterback coach that I've listened to at any point, whether it's Trey Lance or any quarterback, they all say the same thing. There's no perfect throwing motion. It doesn't exist. It's what works for you and how much can you repeat that over and over and over and do it consistently. That's mostly what we are trying to do here. We will make minor tweaks. Of course, we're going to make minor tweaks, but there is no perfect motion to say, hey, this is what we're aiming for. We just want you to be consistent in what works for you. And if we can make you a little bit more efficient without completely overhauling that thing, that's what we're going to do. And every quarterback says this, every quarterback coach says the same thing. And the fact that you look at his throwing motion, yes, there has been minor tweaks, but he's worked with 3 different gurus at this point, and none of them have completely overhauled that thing, tells you that there's a lot of people that have strong opinions and don't know what the F they're talking about. That's basically what that means.
Yeah, when those videos first came out, and I watched this throwing motion, at first glance, I didn't see many changes. I was like, okay, so his motion wasn't as out of whack as a lot of people were saying. Maybe it's just because of the inexperience that makes people think that, like, his motion, just everything in general, is just messed up, which turns out it's not the case, which is a good thing for the 49ers.
Right. Right. Exactly. So, everybody's entitled to their opinions. I am no expert on it. Really, my breakdown was 100% just going off the conversations that I've had with his quarterback coach and knowing what they've tried to work on over the last couple off seasons, knowing that's something that they tried to work on, and then now seeing it clearly being worked on. That's why I wanted to point out the hip drop and raise all in the motion, because that is what they said they wanted to fix a little bit.
That's something I didn't see when I first watched those videos. So I guess you just watch and learn. That's all you can do, really, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. All right, bro. We'll talk soon. Okay. Keep killing it over the channel. Keep doing your thing, man. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, I'm almost to 100 subs, so I'm very excited.
Gabe's Niners. That's the new name.
Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody go subscribe to Gabe's Niners. Let's get them over 100 tonight. I think it's pretty easy. We can do that. Let's get them over 100. Gabe's Niners. Go check it out. Do that for me. I'd appreciate it. We'll talk soon. All right, bro?
All right. Later, man. Have a
good later. Chris, I see you. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for you. This is for Chris only. He paid. Not because he paid, but because it's late out here, actually, and I was going to be done. But he did pay, and he wants to come on. So, Chris, the link's right there. Gammon says, Emiliano, I won't start a channel. Anxiety is my prevention. However, I want to win a bet against Jesse. He has to shave his beard in game. There was a time that I shaved the beard. It was a little weird for a couple months for people. They didn't understand it. They didn't like it. They wanted me to grow it back out. And I got to be honest, I didn't like it either. So I did grow it back out. But what's funny is before the pandemic, I never had facial hair. Never in my life did I have facial hair. And then the pandemic came, I grew it out. I liked it. And so when I got introduced to the 49ers community, everybody knew me with a beard. So the moment that I didn't have a beard, people weren't too fond of that. So I like it. Let's see. Chris, is that you backstage or is that somebody else? I mean, I'll let somebody else in, but I did drop the link for Chris, so I feel like that's not Chris backstage. We'll see. Give it a minute here. Maybe it is. I don't think it is though. Roscoe's, there it is. There it is. So Trez, I'll come to you. I'm gonna go to Roscoe's first. Because I dropped the link specifically for him. So if you got a minute to wait, I'll give you a few minutes. Be patient. I appreciate you.
What's up, Jesse?
What's up, man?
What's up, Jesse? Hey, man, I be trying to come into your shows all the time, but I just don't be knowing sometimes when the show is happening. And then when it do happen, I be late. But what's up, man? What's going on? Hey, listen, I just want to hurry up and do something. We had a space and you couldn't talk, so I would love for you to speak on what you was going to speak on, when you were going to come into my space the other day when we had all the content creators in there. And I don't even have to be on, but I know you was heavily disagreeing with some of the things, so talk a little bit.
I got to remember give me a reference on the topic.
So one of the things I think you disagree with is my guy Rich said this is the same offense. They ran the same offense for Trey Lance that they did for Purdy and Jimmy.
Yeah,
you disagreed with that, right?
To a certain extent, the plays that they chose to run. So here's the issue that I've always had when it came to Trey Lance and running him. I think actually what I disagreed with more, if I'm not mistaken, was he had talked about, what did he say?
Well,
he had talked about the running, and you had brought up the stat of like 9.3 yards a carry when they run the read option with Trey Lance, whether he runs or not, and then that average dropped to 7.3 if you remove Debo's big run. And he was basically saying, like, you have to do it. You have to do it. If you don't do it, that what else are they supposed to do? And I think that's more so what I disagreed with. There are multiple ways to skin a cat. And when you look at Trey Lance, anybody who put any sort of film time into him, which I know Rich did, I know he did because he does his homework. Rich is very, very smart when it comes to breaking down film. I definitely like what he has to say in a lot of it. But if he really, truly looked at Trey Lance and came away with, oh, this is a guy that you have to run a bunch for him to figure it out, then I don't know what Trey Lance you were watching in college, but that is not the same player that I was watching. And there was a player in Justin Fields that you certainly could have drafted that would have fit that mold, that you could have done all those things with, and it probably would have been right to run those plays with on a regular basis to ease him into being a pro quarterback. Trey Lance was not that guy. So I completely disagree with that notion that, well, Kyle must have seen something, and so we've got to trust what he's saying. And if he thinks that that's what he needs to do, then that's what he needs to do. I don't agree with that. So that is the biggest disagreement I have.
Okay, I got two more questions quickly.
Yep.
So my other thing is this, as far as Trey Lance, because I think one thing I did like that Rich said is Kyle Shanahan believes like with Trey Lance you could do more. So yes, Gammon, that's me. but do you get what I'm saying? Rich was like, when you think about it, don't think about they're dumbing down the offense, but know that they're with Trey Lance's skill set, Shanahan believes this guy can do more than Purdy, more than Jimmy. Do you at least agree with that? And that's why he was running them and everything.
Well, the way that I took what he said, and I did agree with it, was, he's not dumbing down the offense. In fact, when you start throwing in the read option, or zone read or whatever you want to call it, he is forced to actually do a lot more. That puts a lot of stress on you mentally. And so you're asking him to do more than what you're asking of the other quarterbacks when you ask him to do those things. And I do agree with that.
How do you feel about that?
I completely agree with that. And I think that it definitely is a testament to Trey Lance and his mental capacity and what we think of Trey Lance when it comes to the mental side of the game. I definitely think that it's going to stress him a lot more, but physically is what I'm worried about. And there was a lot of signs, Chris. If you look at it, it's not like a lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, of course, in hindsight, you're going to say it's Kyle Shanahan's fault. But the week leading up to that game where he got injured, a lot of us were saying you're running him too much. You got to chill out with this. We saw it in the Arizona game. The reason was you said you weren't comfortable calling plays for him. You're trying to ease him into it. Then we saw you pull back in the Texans game. And then, yes, the excuse here is that it's a monsoon, but you've got to chill out. You're going to injure the kid. And then the week leading up to the game, Trey Lance himself was asked about it. Most likely it was Grant that asked the question because he always asks good questions. But Trey Lance himself said, I don't fully feel comfortable running this way. This is something I've got to figure out what I can get away with. I've got to learn to protect myself. But he said he wasn't fully comfortable with it. And then what do you know? A few days later, he loses his leg. So when you got a player that wasn't comfortable and you got people saying the week leading up to this happening, that is not a hindsight thing. That is, we saw it coming. And unfortunately, it happened way before we ever expected it to, and a lot worse.
I'm going to add this and I'll go. I think with Trey Lance, there's just another level to this offense that I don't even think the fans have seen yet. There's just another level. But I'm a Purdy and Trey Lance guy. It doesn't matter. And lastly, I'm gonna get off and you can just speak on it because we also spoke on this. Do you believe Trey Lance has got a fair shot? I want your honest opinion, and I'm gonna log off.
Okay,
I'm gonna be listening, but you know what I mean.
I got you. All right. Oh, hold on. I'll bring you up, Trez. I accidentally meant to pull Chris out and then brought you in. Man, that's such a loaded question, Chris. Such a loaded question. Because he did in year 2. He definitely did. But let's say that's the only time that he starts for the 49ers outside of the games that he came in and filled in for Jimmy Garoppolo when he was injured. If he doesn't play this year, let's assume if Brock Purdy's healthy, I can understand it. But if Brock Purdy's not healthy and Trey Lance doesn't start week 1, then my answer is no. So I think right now it's TBD. I think it's a little early to say for sure. I definitely think that he should have started year 1. And I know that one thing that you bring up pretty often is that you say, well, they wanted to potentially start him, but he had the finger injury and it just didn't work out. But Trey Lance threw a touchdown pass week 1. If his finger was so injured that he couldn't play football, he wouldn't have thrown that touchdown pass. He wouldn't have been in the game. And then the locker room came out and said, oh, we don't want all this. You're messing with the rhythm. And then Trey Lance was all of a sudden gone until they needed it. Remember, they couldn't score any points against Green Bay in that first half. And they desperately needed a touchdown. I want to say they had 7 chances to score from like inside the 7-yard line. They had 3 plays and then a penalty and then another 3 plays. If I remember correctly, they couldn't score. What do you know? Last play of the first half, they need a touchdown. Trey Lance comes in, runs it in, and then the offense picks up in the second half and the game gets interesting. But he played then. Then, of course, he plays against Arizona, not because they wanted him to play, but because Jimmy was hurt. They did talk about potentially starting him against the Colts, but he hurt his knee. And how did he hurt his knee? I mean, they used him like a freaking fullback. So I don't know. I don't want to say that he's had 0 chance because that's just not true. He was supposed to be the starter last year. So he definitely has been given a shot. To say he's been given a fair shot, though, I think that's TBD. We got to see what happens this year. That's where I'm at with it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I do think he's going to start week 1. And then, all those questions, did he get a fair shot? All those questions will be answered. But one thing that I don't like is people say things like, well, he was gifted the job. You got to earn everything that you get in the NFL. Not when you're a top 10 pick as a quarterback. That's not the way it works. That's never been the way that it works. You either start year 1 or you start year 2, and you're given every opportunity you can get to succeed. That's the way the NFL's always worked. And when you take a guy that high, you've either got to start them right away, like the Patriots were willing to do with Mac Jones and get rid of the other guy. That's what the 49ers should have done with Jimmy Garoppolo. Or if you're going to start him year 2, guess what? You ride that thing out until you know exactly what you got. And you got to be willing to go through the growing pains. You don't say, oh, well, you got your 2 games and you broke your ankle. Tough luck. That's not the way it works, man. That you don't spend that capital and draft a guy that high. They all get handed the job. They don't earn nothing. They all get handed the job. Or they say there's a quarterback competition, but the guy they're competing with is like some journeyman bum that is never actually going to win, but they're trying to make it seem like you do hear that. Oh, this rookie quarterback was in a quarterback competition. Yeah, but it's with a guy that's like isn't loved by the locker room by any means. Nobody gives a crap about him. They're a journeyman. And then ultimately they end up winning the job and starting and everything's fine. That's not actually what's going on. They give the job to these guys. So if you're looking at it the way that the NFL, the precedent has been set for every top 10 quarterback that's ever been drafted, then I would say no. So far, he hasn't been given that quote unquote fair shot the way that all these other guys have. But if he starts week 1, then it would be impossible to argue against, hey, you know what? They gave him a chance in year 2. Now they're giving him a chance again in year 3. He's been given his fair shot. So that's the way that I see it. I think it's a good question, though. And it's definitely hotly debated amongst Twitter spaces for sure. All right, we're going to bring in Trez, and then we're going to get out of here. What's up, Trez?
What's going on, Jesse? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, the man, the myth, the legend is in the building. All right,
yes,
look
sir.
at here, Jesse. For me, man, like I really just don't get it. I don't get it from the fans' point of view. I don't get it from Kyle Shanahan's point of view. It seems like me and you and a handful of others get it. We understand how the NFL works. We understand when you draft that high, you give up that kind of draft, commodity. You just gave up those many picks. Hey, man, this kid got to play, bro. But what kills me, though, Jesse, is that the same uncertainty that they have for Trey Lance, why they don't have that for Brock Purdy? What made them think that this injury that he just suffered, he going to come back balling?
I don't understand it. I
get
really don't understand it.
I'm gonna tell you from my point of view, just me. I think Brock Purdy was a good Cinderella story. I honestly do. I think the kid came in playing with the juice. He was riding on his emotions and just winging it because what did he have to lose? He was Mr. Irrelevant. It was a good Cinderella story. But now that the NFL has tape on you, I don't think it's gonna play out the same way everybody think it's gonna play out. Like Brock Purdy is Joe Montana or somebody. I'm like, come on, man. Like we drafted this kid this high, gave up 3 picks, and you guys sitting here talking about Brock Purdy. No, I need to see what Trey Lance got. That's what I need to see. That's where all the picks went. I'm not worried about Brock Purdy. I want to see Trey Lance, and I want to see him in a fair shot. This whole Trey Lance thing has been a total debacle from Kyle Shanahan from the beginning. We all said Trey needed to play from the jump. What does he do? No, he's going to ride the bench the first year. I say, man. And then they say this too. I'm gonna let you talk. They say, "Oh, the 49ers can't afford to waste another season." What? Waste another season? Like we just been throwing seasons out the door. That kills me too. That little cliche. They can't afford to waste another season on development of Trey Lance. What? When has it ever started? But you go
ahead. That when anybody says, "Well, we can't waste a season. We're in a Super Bowl window." What defines Super Bowl window for me? Because unless you've already won a Super Bowl, is that window actually open? Like what does that mean? Like you say Super Bowl window or championship window for teams that have won championships, and then you start to figure out like, okay, they just won a ring. What's the landscape of this roster? How long is that window open for them to continue winning rings? That's always the way that I looked at it when I say Super Bowl window or championship window in basketball. You got to get that championship first. Just because your team is always right there doesn't mean that the window's open. The window's open once you open it and walk through it. Like that's what means championship window. So to say that this team has a championship window for sure, or that they're wasting time and they can't forego this window, that's fine. Only if you forego his development and you win a ring. The moment that you forego his development and you don't win a ring, like the last 2 seasons, then you're not doing anything. You're not proving anything. All you're doing is pushing the development back and back and back. And you've got 1 or 2 jobs. You've either got to fully develop him and figure out what's going on. That should be the most important thing for a season. Or you're going to forego that development, but you have to win a championship. You can't look back on it, in my opinion, and say, well, they made the right decision. They got to the NFC Championship. No, they didn't. You didn't win a Super Bowl. Getting to the NFC Championship is not worth foregoing your potential future and knowing if this guy can be that player or not. That is the number one thing you have to figure out. Going to the NFC Championship is not proving that anything right, other than you effed up and you should have started Trey Lance. That's all that I'm learning.
That is so true. Well said. And I'm gonna leave on this, but you answer this for me too. How can Sam Darnold walk into town and everybody sing his praise and say that he's in a competition with Trey Lance? I don't get that either. Like this dude just walks in and all of a sudden he has a competition with the guy that we gave up 3 first-round picks. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's why I say our coach sometimes I don't know about him. Like I really, and by the way, I'm in Atlanta, so I know about him, but I don't know about it. When I say meaning like his stability upstairs, because he just handled things so immature and wrong to me, man. Like it's just like you said, when you bringing in that type of a quarterback and you gave up that much draft capital, he is your starting quarterback. You get rid of the quarterback that was present. That's the way it's been done since the beginning of time. But no, that kind of Shanahan. No. Him and John Lynch just can't seem to get it right.
I think the other thing that you hear often is like, well, what do you expect him to do? No other quarterback has been drafted that high that was on a Super Bowl winning team or a team that can win the Super Bowl. And it's like, well, again, that's assuming this proverbial Super Bowl window is open. But there have been teams that were playoff teams that went ahead and punted on the playoffs the next season to develop their quarterbacks.
Their quarterback, right.
That's happened. And guess what? It's worked out in their favor. For those teams, it's worked out in their favor because they were probably never going to win a Super Bowl without that quarterback anyways. So they either found out, hey, we've got a franchise guy, or you know what? We didn't have a franchise guy before the draft. We found out we still don't have a franchise guy. Got to keep trying. So until you find a franchise guy, you got to keep trying. But when you have this guy on the team that you genuinely don't know, and you're going into year 3, and literally everybody in the fan base has the same opinion of this guy that they had 3 years ago or 2 years ago when he was coming out of the draft, and their opinion has not changed because nobody's seen him play, that's a problem.
True. Well, Jess, I appreciate you taking my call. And if Trey is watching your show, I'm gonna say this to you, Trey. You go out here, you ball out, prove them wrong, and quit standing up for them clowns in that locker room that don't stand up for you, man. All right, Jesse, you have a
I
good
love it. All right, Trez, have a good one. I'm glad I took that call. That was a good call. That was a really good call. Twisted Clown says, Kyle, Jesse ever seen a Super Bowl flying V option? Darnold at quarterback, split fullback with Brock, and Trey split running back with Debo and CMC. Ooh, I like it. If anybody could pull it off, it would be this roster with Kyle Shanahan. I agree. Gammon says, Klarzard stated, next year is Trent. Trent is maybe gone. Let's not waste his last year. Please, thoughts. Guest handle on shows. I mean, I guess I don't know the context. Is he just saying like, hey, Kyle, make sure that you do everything you can to win a Super Bowl? Or is he saying that we can't waste it on Trey? I'll just answer it under the pretense that we can't waste it on Trey. I mean, who's here that is the for sure answer? I mean, where is the guarantee? Because if that is the feeling, like, oh, we can't waste it on Trey's development, then they better go get somebody else that is not on this roster. If they want to have the best chance to win a Super Bowl, they better go get Aaron Rodgers, or they better go get Lamar Jackson. And he's clarifying. He's just saying Kyle better not mess it up. Okay, that's fair. And I'm glad I know your stance. But I think a lot of people are thinking the same way you are, but in reverse and saying, hey, we can't waste it on Trey. This might be Trent Williams last year. We don't have time to do that. Then you shouldn't waste it on any of these quarterbacks because we don't know what Brock Purdy is. We didn't know. We have no idea for sure what he's going to be in the future. And now that future is even more uncertain, especially the immediate future because of the surgery. We certainly, from what we've seen from Sam Darnold, he's not going to be enough. Trey Lance is still basically a rookie at this point. Chances are he's not going to be enough to win a Super Bowl this year. So you probably don't have that guy on the roster for Trent's final year. So you better go get somebody completely different. You better get an Aaron Rodgers. You better get a Lamar Jackson. Hell, you're probably better off with a Kirk Cousins. You better figure that out. So if the mentality in the building is we can't waste Trent Williams' final year, or in the fan base, we can't waste Trent Williams' final year on a guy like Trey Lance, well, you can't waste it on Sam Darnold or Brock Purdy either. If you want to win a Super Bowl, you better go get somebody that's not in that building. If you want to give yourself the best chance to win a Super Bowl. Now, you can win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying it's impossible with these guys in here, but if you want to give yourself the best chance, that guy's not in this building. So that's the way that I see it. You Warriors fans, man, you guys pick on my Blazers an awful lot. Makes me sad. Definitely makes me sad. But I think that the Warriors are going to win the championship again. We'll see. I mean, there's a lot of teams that they got to go through, but they've got this whole road record thing happening this year. I just think getting Wiggins back, it's going to be a whole different ball game come playoffs. So I'm curious to see how this play out. This is going to be a really, really fun playoffs for me. I'm looking forward to this one. But that being said, God bless all of you. Thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. And until next time, peace.